Welcome back to the Circle of M podcast. I am your host, Marcus Smith II, former 6-year NFL veteran. Man, we have a special guest today, man. This is our first collegiate athlete. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. We're going to be talking about mental health, of course. We're going to be talking about life. And we're going to take you down this journey, his journey. Man, I want to introduce my good brother, Devin Morris, man. How are you doing today, man? Former defensive back of the Texas A&M. Man, how are you doing today, bro?
I'm blessed, bro. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be on the show.
Man, I actually, man, when you hit me up, man, I was like, wow, like, the podcast is actually, people are seeing it. And you don't really know or understand if people are seeing it until, someone hits you up and they tell you, hey, bro, I want to tell my story, man. You wanted to tell your story. But first, man, I really wanted to talk about, the hometown that you come from and how you built this edge and how you wanted to play the game of football. Like, let's talk about like early on when you started playing the game of football. And it could just be high school leading up to college. Like, what was your mindset going into before you went into college?
Well, I'm just a simple hometown kid from a small town, single parent household, wasn't the wealthiest at all family. There was some struggles, but made it out.
Man, okay. So I really want to like dive into like how you started, your mental health struggles, right? Because we talked about that a little bit when we talked about it on the phone. And in the last podcast that we did, we had NFL vet, Prince Jr., and he also talked about losing his identity. He talked about, him wanting to get to the highest pinnacle. Like, what was your mindset of you getting into the highest pinnacle? Was that like your goals and what you wanted to do and wanted to achieve?
Oh, for sure. Like, the ultimate goal was obviously the NFL, but some stuff came up along the way that held me back for sure. I'll start off by, it started in 2020, the start of fall camp. I was having a hell of a camp, got the starting role, was rolling with the ones. But then all of a sudden, I pulled my hip flexor. So that pushed me back down the depth chart, and that just devastated me. I'm making plays, balling out, got the starting job, and then all of a sudden something bad happens. So I'm like, why is this happening to me? You know what I mean? So, boom, that happens. I got to go through this recovery process now. I'm all the way down the depth chart. The recovery process is already hard as it is. It took me about a week and a half to get back. But when it happened, it was like 2 weeks already before our first game. So by the time I got back, it was already too late. So that just crushed me. And like, just the feeling like I worked so hard to get to where I am. Like, when I first started playing, I didn't start seeing the field till my third year. So I had redshirted my first year, and then I didn't get any action my second year. So
you already had to work to get to that point, basically.
Yeah, oh, for sure. So yeah, that just devastated me. And then once that happened, like, I didn't even want to leave my house. Like, it was crazy. I just started feeling sad out of nowhere. Like, I didn't know what was going on. So that kind of just threw me off. I was like, what is going on? So, so yeah, that's the start of it. So the season goes on. We had a hell of a season. We went 9-1. That's when we lost to Bama. We only lost one game. We got screwed out of the playoffs, but we'll talk about that later. So I started a few games throughout the season. Then I was just in the role on and off through games that season. But then towards the end of the season, we, right before our bowl game, I had got a concussion. And so I didn't even get to play in our bowl game. We were in the Orange Bowl. So that's a big bowl, who doesn't want to play in that bowl? But so that also, like, then that's when the feeling started coming back. I was like, man, what is going, like, what is going on. I thought it was symptoms from the concussion, but it really wasn't. I started feeling the same way, depressed, sad, and having anxiety attacks. Like I didn't know what was going on. So yeah, I mean, that was the pinnacle of it, and then it just went on from there.
Wow. I mean, and I want to first, I always commend the guys for when they come on and speak and talk about, just even just a little bit of what you may be dealing with. It's really going to help someone also. It's really going to help you along. But is it safe to say, like, in those moments when you just kept having something happen after another, something after another, you trying to get to this point where you want to be? At the end of the day, it's about being healthy and about being there for your team because you're a team player. Football is a team sport. That's what you want to do. Did you feel in that moment like, yo, like, okay, is football really for me? Was that something that you actually thought about, or you just like, you know what, it is for me, this is my dream, and I'm going to keep pursuing it?
Oh, it definitely crossed my mind that is this really for me? Because I've been playing football since I was 7 years old, nonstop. It's been football, football, football. So when I was in college and all this stuff was happening, I just felt mentally drained because in college, like that's all I was focused on was football, football, on top of class, practice, um, meetings, just everything like that. Just I didn't even like want to go hang out with friends. I didn't want to like join any clubs or anything like that. Like I was just so focused on football. So that really mentally drained me to a point where it's like, is this really for me? Like, do I want to continue doing this? Because I've been doing it for so long.
So your identity was wrapped up in football, in this process. And outside of that, it's like, and this is all of us, right? Like I went through the same thing. Like it took me a while to like figure out who I was. Like I had to figure out who the real Marcus Smith was, and you're the same way. Like I have to figure out who Devin is, like because this has been our identity for so long, and when it gets stripped away from us, so a lot of us, when we get done playing, normally it's not all the time like when we want it to be. Like when you get to the next level, for sure, sometimes you get cut, and sometimes you might not see another down again because people move on. But in your situation, man, this is actually something that is close. Like 2020, this is not something that happened a long time ago. This is something that is very fresh and is very new, man. I want you to talk a little bit about going into like, if I can say this correctly, you were going into your 5th season, right? And this was the season where you wanted to continue to further your career and where you was still doing really well, right? How did that part go, as the season started? I want you to tell the listeners, what that timeline was during that time before you walked away from the game.
It was hard every single day. I lost, like, I want to say I lost the love for it. I would say that because, like, I didn't have the energy to get up and go to meetings, get up and just go to practice. Like, I wanted to stay home, and I just, like, really just didn't even want to be a part of it. So it was really hard. So having to push through it for so long throughout the season, and then finally towards the end of the season, having to talk with Coach Fisher and telling them that I had to step away from the game.
So you went and told your coach because some of the things that you were dealing with, anxiety, depression, like you've been dealing with this for a while, and it got just a lot. It got too much, and you basically said, "Hey, my mental health is more important right now. I need to, do whatever it takes to make sure I protect that, so I can be there for my soon-to-be wife, so I could be there for." My family and things of that nature. What was that moment like when you was talking to him? Did you feel like the coaches would give you that leeway to, hey, we're gonna help you get what you need, or were you like terrified to go in there?
Both. Like before I started before I called him up and say, hey, coach, I got to talk to you about something. He was like, all right, come to my office. On the way up there, I was almost having an anxiety attack. Like, I didn't even want to tell him. Like, it was just so, like, I mean, so, I don't even know the word for it. Like, it was so scary, to be
Right.
honest. So, but I had to fight through that. I went up there, told him my situation, and I have all the love and respect for Coach Fisher in the world. He fully understood my situation and what I was going through. He got me the help I needed, got me in touch with a psychologist to talk to me about whatever was going on. But in that moment, yeah, he was fully transparent with everything. He understood everything that I was going through, and I just really appreciate him for that.
Man, and all coaches don't do that. Some coaches are more on the hard side, like, man, you need to get it together, or stop being a, wuss. Or
But that's society too. That's
Right.
everybody. They expect us D1 athletes to not go through that type of stuff. Oh, we're supposed to be these hard guys, like not go through anything. But we pay attention to the media. We pay attention to all the negative stuff said about us. Like, we look at that. You won't find anybody who doesn't pay attention to that stuff. So
Right.
that stuff gets to us. So yeah.
Man, it's exactly what you said. We do pay attention to it because at the end of the day, I remember Quinn Cook had said one thing, like, he used to dictate his happiness off of like how he did on the court, because if he did well on the court, then he would have a happy day. But if they lost and the fans are going at him, then his day would be sad and depressed. So I understand exactly what you're saying, because it's like a need right now. It's like, hey, like, you're a first round draft pick, or you're a D1 athlete, you're coming into Texas A&M and you need to play and you need to do these things right now. But people don't realize we are human as athletes. We human. Like, we're going to make mistakes. There is not one person on this earth that is not going to make a mistake. So I want to go back to Jimbo, man. I commend him, because guess what? Pete Carroll did me the same way, and my coach, Coach Hurt. He did me the same way. They're like, look, go get the help you need. We're going to put you in front of the right people. So talk a little bit about your experience in talking to a psychiatrist and therapy. Talk a little bit about that experience, because people don't really, athletes or just people in general, they don't really know about therapy. And some of them don't even want to try it for real, because it's a scary thing. And coming from the communities we come from, it's like, yo, you crazy if you go to therapy. So talk a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest things to do, is to talk to somebody. I mean, us as men, we want to be tough guys and we don't want to really express our feelings. But when you have to, I mean, whenever I talked to the guys I needed to talk to, I felt better about myself. And like, whenever I made that post I sent you about me announcing I was stepping away, all the love that came in to support me from the fans, I mean, that just like made me feel even better, and like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. So that's basically like the hardest part to do for a lot of people, is to really talk to somebody and get stuff off your chest. So,
man, that's the number one. I think that's the best way to kind of like start helping your healing process, is actually talking to someone and freeing yourself. I always say you have to take your thoughts and all the things that you suppressed pretty much your whole entire life, and the things that you suppressed about football, the things that you were dealing with, that you was trying to muscle through, those thoughts are in the back of your brain, like they're stuck in the back of your brain. But when you bring them to the front part of your brain and you release them out of your mouth, then you are freeing yourself. So I really commend you for actually going in there and taking initiative, because you're going to be an example for the next college student, for the next player, for the next person to say, yo, I can go get the help that I need, and I'm not going to wait as long as I did or you did. You want them to be able to do it while they're playing, so they can continue their success and continue to do the things that they are doing, man. But I definitely, that's one way that you overcame it. But then I also want to talk about the feeling of you sitting out, because I know that feeling. I know that feeling, man. It's like you're watching your teammates play. You're watching where you could be. You made this decision to better yourself. But what was that feeling like being away from the game, man?
It was terrible. I went this past season. I went to the A&M's first football game, a home game, and just the sense of me being a fan now, like watching out there, knowing I still had a year eligibility, like just feeling like I should be out there. So like I would see a guy out there making plays, and I'll be like, I used to bust this dude up every day in practice. So
Right.
so knowing I still have a lot left in me, it eats at me still to this day. Like I think about wanting to go back all the time. So I mean, just knowing I still like it's leaving me unsatisfied, to be honest.
Man, so even with being unsatisfied through your journey, you'll start to find what your purpose is and how your purpose can help you be satisfied in where you are in life. I want to tell you something, brother. Look, you are a magnificent person. You have did so many and are doing so many great things, man. And it's what you have done already. 9 times out of 10, man, people aren't doing that, right? And people aren't getting those opportunities. And I just want to tell you, man, you're great in everything that you do, and you are more than a conqueror. So I want to tell you that, even with you maybe feeling like you're not satisfied. But I want to say this too: is there a small inkling that, I don't know, do you have a year left? Can you go back?
I'm not
That's
sure.
a big question,
on that
but
exact
hey,
answer.
I just wanted to ask.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the exact answer to that, but I miss it every day. And I went to A&M the other day and was talking to the coaches about some stuff. And but yeah, we don't know an exact answer on that, but yeah.
Well, I want you to continue to get healing and continue to do the things that you're doing. But this right here, this actually pushed you forward into coaching. Let's talk about why you coach and, what's your purpose behind you coaching?
My purpose is to continue to spread awareness for mental health, like to teach these kids at a young age that this stuff is real and it can happen to anybody. So coming back to my hometown, coaching, being a role model and inspiration to these kids is what it's all about. So don't get me wrong, I love what I do.
Man, you love what you do. We all love what we do. Like, was it ever a time where you actually get to, like, talk to the players, right? Actually about some of the stuff that you went through, right? When you're coaching them, is there a certain feeling that you feel? Do you feel like you're back on the field again when you're with them? Because it's just a way, because I know, we're at A&M Sports and Fitness right now. This is where we shoot it. And for me to still find the love of it, I just come in, I watch them, and I talk to the guys. Do you do similar things? Do you do the same thing? Like to try to keep your love of the game there?
Yeah, for sure. That's another reason why I got into coaching. I still wanted to be around the game of football. So, yeah, and I've been in these guys' shoes. So I know exactly what they're going through. I know, like, they know they can come to talk to me about anything because they've seen me get to this level, play SEC football, the highest level in college football. They see me as a role model and somebody to come and talk to. So that makes me feel good about myself right there.
So that gives you an extra push. That gives you that extra that you need to keep pushing and keep going. Man.
Yeah, and I also do like a lot of character building stuff with my teams. Like that's a big part too. Like not only the physical side, but also the mental side with those guys.
Yeah, because mentally is it's the same as physical, because if you don't have it up here, then how could you have it in the rest of your limbs, right? That's how I always look at it. It's like you can't be the best version of yourself if you're not all the way there mentally. And you don't want to get to a point like how I was. It was either go to therapy or die. That's how I looked at it, because I was so much in a dark place that it was wreaking havoc on me playing my position, football, my family life, everything. It was trickling into everything. So, man, I understand. I know exactly where you are. And yo, you're on the other side of it now. Even though you were missing the game, does it feel good to be on the other side too as well? Or is that still like new to you and you still trying to figure it out how to feel that and how to find your purpose even some more?
Well, I feel kind of better now. I got a year under my belt, so I better understand it now. But it's good to like be on this side, seeing it from a coach's view instead of a player's view. So, I mean, I've seen both sides. So, I mean, I think it's pretty good for me.
And that's how it should be. Long as it's good for you, long as you know that you're more than a conqueror, long as you know that you're great, even with you walking away. And what I always like to do on the show is, if there's one thing, maybe two things. If you want to leave two things, that's great. Things about mental health, life, your story. If you wanted to talk to a young kid, a person in college, NFL guys, a parent, wherever it may be, if you wanted to talk to them and say one thing or give them one piece of advice, what would you give them? What would you say?
I mean, just to basically just enjoy life. I mean, like I said, I was so caught up in college. I was just so caught up in just football, 24/7. I mean, the life of a D1 athlete. So I didn't really have time to do anything. And like I said, I was just mentally drained. So pretty much just enjoy life.
I would say the same thing. I would say enjoy life and continue to know that every day you got to take one step at a time. In life, it's a journey, right? The journey is what we go on in order to find our purpose, right? So you have to continue to do what we do and be blessed in that way. So, man, honestly, I commend you for doing what you're doing right now because this takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of boldness. And we talk about mental health. More people are talking about it. I've been doing this work since 2019, but I want this to be something that we talk about each and every day.
I just got to say, like, mental health doesn't leave you. Like, it'll always creep up on you anytime. Like, even recently, it's just creeped up on me. So it's just basically every day you wake up, it's an everyday battle that you got to fight. And that's the hardest battle you got to fight is one with yourself. So, I mean, yeah, mental health doesn't leave you. So you always got to just make sure you're in the right mindset in everything you do.
So basically what you just said was that it's not something that you just get rid of, right? It's not something that, hey, like I'm gonna go to therapy for 2 days and it's gonna be gone. No, it's something that is embedded in us and that it is generational, obviously, because our ancestors dealt with so many things and trauma-wise. So we breathe that in our lives each and every day. So it's about the work that we put in to help ourselves to cope with our anxiety, our depressions, and be able to master those feelings and those issues. Because at the end of the day, when the issue arises, right, it's about being able to tame that issue and being able to use it for your good, man. So I appreciate you for coming on the Circle of M podcast. Once again, man, we have my good brother, Devin Morris, man, former Texas A&M defensive back, now teacher and coach. Man, I appreciate you coming on, man. This was an amazing episode. I appreciate everything that you do, man. And once again, this is the Circle of M podcast. I am your host, Marcus Smith II, and we are out.